Realme is now back with another mid-range value offering, and it's got a lot of spec on offer for the price. It is the GT Master Edition, powered by the Snapdragon 778G. It's a 5G chip. We have a 6.43-inch, 120Hz AMOLED panel from Samsung in this, with a touch sampling rate of 360Hz, a 4,300 mAh battery with 65-watt fast charging, 64-megapixel main camera, 32-megapixel selfie, and really a lot on offer for that price. But is it a phone that you should consider? Should you shortlist it and definitely check it out? Well, there's a lot going for this GT Master Edition, as I'll show you in this in-depth review. In the box, you'll find a Type A to Type C cable. We have our 65-watt charger, which fully charges this phone in approximately 40 minutes, so it is very quick. A grey TPU case, high quality one, and we do have a SIM tray tool. So the model I have here is the Voyager Grey, they call it this color, and it almost looks to me brown. So the weight of the phone, not bad at all. It's 180 grams. The thickness, you are looking at 8.2 millimeters with the camera included. That brings it up to almost 10 millimeters according to my measurements. So this power on button here, we've got easy access to that. It's on the right. But what I don't really have easy access to is the in-screen fingerprint reader right here. So it's a little bit too low for me. To me, this is one area that I've got a bit of criticism from them, is that it really should be a little bit higher about here. But even so, it does work really well, as you can see. So just unlocking right now, that unlocks really quick and fast. We have a full HD display here. This one is a Samsung AMOLED screen, okay, and the size of it is 6.43 inches, this one, and 120 hertz, so very, very smooth, and I'll get onto the performance of the ROM and everything. So right up here, we have a 32-megapixel front-facing camera. The camera's on the back, so the set here, we've got 3 of them, and it's good to see they've actually gone down one camera, because the other models, they actually had 4 cameras on them. So this one, we've got a main 64-megapixel sensor, f1.8 aperture. Then we've got an ultra-wide, which is 8 megapixels, f2.3 aperture with that one, and a 2 megapixel f2.4 macro camera with a focus point of 4 centimeters. Now this material on the back, it does pick up fingerprints. It is plastic. The frame around the outside is plastic there too. And our SIM tray, just to pull that out and show you that it takes 2 nano SIMs. There is no micro SD card support with this model. Down the bottom, a single loudspeaker, so there are no dual loudspeakers in this model, which is sad, and we have a Type-C port, of course. Now, this is USB 2 speeds, there's no video out support, microphone, and yes, hooray, a 3.5mm headphone jack. So we are missing on the micro SD card support, but at least we do have this, which I really love to still have in my phones. So right up the top here, there is a secondary microphone for noise cancellation and calls and for video. What is missing here is an IR transmitter, sadly not included. Overall, I like the build quality. For the price point of this phone, it's perfectly acceptable. It's a nice solid build, and just giving a bit of a flex here, there are no creaks. It does not feel cheap at all. The GT Master Edition screen here is 6.43 inches, 120 Hz with a touch sampling rate of 360 Hz. So it responds to touch really quick, and I've not had any problems with gestures, and just overall touch response is excellent on this. So the maximum brightness I've measured now to be 732 nits. That's with whites, and it is very good. It's a bright screen. Blacks look very, very good, nice and deep. It does come with a pre-applied screen protector, and there is DC dimming that you can enable in the Realme Labs, which I will show you just after this. So some of the other settings here that we do have with us is you can go into, of course, display, and I'll just quickly show you what we do have. So right up the top here, jump into that. We've got our dark mode, eye comfort. You can also adjust the white balance, color mode there, which I keep on gentle. You can change it to vivid for more punchy colors, or even brilliant. And the refresh rate under more, you can go and change that. So I've got it forced to high, which is 120 Hz. I mean, why not? After all, it's a 120 Hz phone. But if you wanted to save on battery life, you can use auto or force it onto 60 Hz. The GT Master Edition is running Android 11 and Realme UI 2.0. It is very, very quick, very fast. Optimization is excellent, and it does have really, to me, an Oxygen OS feel about it, especially when it comes to the speed and performance. So I have not seen any UI stutters, lag, anything like that. Now, there are a few settings that are hidden away. So one of them is the DC dimming that I did mention. You'll find that under Realme Lab. So under Realme Lab, you can go in and enable this. If you're sensitive to that flickering, you see the pulse width modulation flicker, then that is the option there you'll want to turn on. The other, which is a new feature, is the RAM expansion that you can do. So you'll find that under About the Phone here, if you go into the RAM. So I have hardware 8 gigabytes, and then you can expand upon that by adding more RAM. Now, it's a little bit misleading because it's not RAM, okay? It's not random access memory. This is virtual memory, so it's like your PC. Your Windows 10 PC, virtual memory, you may be running that, so it's just a swap file. It's swapping between that, and it's going to boost and cache, and it does aid in the performance. You can set this to 2 gigabits, 3, or even 5 if you wanted to do so. If you're a very heavy user, you may get some benefit out of that. And so far, I mean, it does seem to be very, very smooth. More manufacturers, I believe, will start to implement this and do it. And that's just really like a caching system there to speed things up. So when you first get this phone, you have approximately 236 or so gigabytes free with this 250 gigabyte spec version. And I do have the 8 gigabytes of RAM. So there's no micro SD card support. So make sure you do choose wisely on the storage capacity that you need. Now I'm on Real UI's latest update here. So that is 2.0. And there is a little bit of bloatware you do get with this. It's not as bad as some manufacturers, but there's still quite a bit there. There's Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, all those sorts of things that I end up uninstalling those, which only takes, just a few minutes to do so. But still, it's a bit of an annoyance that it is there, so I do mention it. So we have very fast storage on this, that it's not a bad speed at all here, as you can see. Good random reads and writes, and even the sequential speeds there. Not bad at all, considering the price group and the category of phone that this really is, like a mid-range phone. Very, very good here. As you can see, the performance from that Snapdragon 778G is quite good. I'm actually really happy with the performance of this one. It's very fast, quick, and even gaming, as you see later on, it does an excellent job at that too. Now, I ran this without the GT mode. You can enable GT mode, which is swiping down here from the toggles. You can then go into it, and where is it? It's just on the side here. GT mode, which is a high performance mode, which is going to set the governor then to performance, and that's putting the GPU and the CPU at their top clock rates so they can perform at their maximum. But I didn't do that, okay? So it could actually be slightly better if I use that mode. The same for 3D Mark Wildlife here. So it's an okay score. It shows that it's not a flagship, but it shows that for a mid-range device, it's still not actually too bad with that result. Wireless speeds, excellent. So yes, it does support Wi-Fi 6. If you have a fast router, which I do, you're able to get gigabit transfer speeds. And even at the point downstairs, I'm still getting very respectable transfer speeds here of almost 300 megabits per second. Not the fastest I have seen, which are around 400, but still very, very good there. Now the GPS, very good average score. You see a lot of satellites, but the accuracy will not be any better than 3 meters with the Qualcomm restriction that they do have. They cannot be any better than that. So here we have a Widevine level 1 cert. Now that also means normally, it depends on the phone, that you should have Amazon Prime Video in Full HD as well. And thankfully, we do with this particular phone. So Amazon has given the green light. This is a whitelisted device. It will run the videos in Full HD, which I really do enjoy and like to see, of course. I don't want to be stuck in standard definition. Camera 2 API support, level 3 maximum. Look for those Gcam ports if you want a different style and quality of photo, that is. And I ran the stress test just to see after the 20 loops that it does, did it throttle? And it basically didn't. You can see we lost 0.9% performance dip after this very demanding benchmark was ran then for the 20 times. So that is a good result. And here we have, battery charge time. It does say 26 minutes to go from 4 to 100%. I don't actually believe that's accurate. It's more like what I'm seeing, around 40 minutes to fully charge the 4,300 milliamp hour battery. So ignore this right here where it says the battery health is at 43%. It's just this application, which is part of Antutu. It's not measuring it correctly at the 65 watts. And the battery runtime, so this was display calibrated, 200 nits. It just runs until it gets to 20% to give me this result here. Looping benchmark, a fixed battery score. So 9 hours and 52 minutes for 120 hertz screen. And then, of course, with the Snapdragon 778, I don't actually think is too bad for 4,300 milliamp hours. Realistically, you're looking about 6 to 7 hours of on-screen time with this phone. The gaming performance here is quite decent thanks to that Snapdragon 778G. So with PUBG that I've got right here, we can run, as I'll show you here, the extreme frame rate is the maximum here. So we can't get, unfortunately, 120 frames per second until maybe the developers add that. And this is on the smooth mode only. So in balanced or HD, okay, you only get the ultra frame rate. So I will be running it on extreme here because with a game like this, you definitely want the frames per second to be the priority. So I'm 10 kills into this game. There's only 3 people left. We're down to the last moments of this. And it's just been great because it's a constant 60 frames per second. Now, if I swipe from the upper left here, you can see the frame rate, 59, 60 all of the time. GPU's not really being stressed. I've seen that about 40 maximum. Oh, someone's shooting full burst there. That must be my teammate. So it looks like we're going to be able to win this one. But I'll take a look at the temperatures now after gaming, at least PUBG, 4 or 5 different rounds. I'm on my third game here of PUBG, and let's take a look at those temperatures. It is getting up to, I can see about 45 degrees maximum on the screen here. Flipping it over, they do have a vapor chamber in this, and you can see temperatures are around 44 degrees. I just think that this chipset really is not getting hot enough. Now, if it was a Snapdragon 888, we'd probably be seeing right now about 50 degrees. But here with the Snapdragon 778, it seems to be a reasonably cool running chip. Around about 45, 46 max after about 1 hour, 40 minutes or so of gaming. Audio performance now, so it is just a single loudspeaker on this one. Unfortunately, there's no loudspeaker in the earpiece, not with the GT Master Edition here. The GT Explorer Edition, yes, it does have the speaker there, but it's a more expensive model. Now, the 3.5mm output from this, I do find to be good. It's clean, it is loud enough, and really no complaints from me. But here's a sample now of that single loudspeaker at 100% volume. Moving over to the cameras now. So with a front-facing camera, you get 1080p maximum with electronic image stabilization. So that high-pitched noise you can hear right now, that's just some cicadas in the trees. It's not nothing to do here with the phone. So you can see it's relatively steady. I'm just going to go through my little jungle right here, down these stairs, just to demonstrate that we've got the electronic image stabilization. Now the audio quality is the typical we get now, which is 320 kilobits per second. Let's take a look at the rear cameras now. So this is the main camera here, which is 64 megapixels. We're able to shoot 4K 30, 4K 60, and I'm currently shooting 4K 30 frames per second to match my own video here. So I've noticed that the focus is very good, no problems with it at all. To get a lock, you see if I put my hand up there that it's pretty much instant and a nice smooth motion too with that. So walking ahead, the electronic image stabilization is taking out the shakes and tremors and any jolts of me walking, so that's great. And if I just jog, you see then it does tend to move around a little bit, but overall not too bad there. So panning around, it's going to be a bit of a hard exposure change here for phones to do it 4K. Sometimes it does introduce a few judders, but overall that seems to be pretty smooth. Let's swipe over now to the ultra wide camera. So just an 8 megapixel sensor here, and I do find the ultra wide quality here 1080p maximum. The stability is good, but the details captured here no way near as good as the main camera. At least of course we can get a lot more into the shot, which is great. Panning around here, 1080p, I don't see any electronic image stabilization judder coming through with this, and it shouldn't happen, definitely not with this chipset and only at 1080p. So to recap now my time using this, I think this phone has an excellent display. It's bright, it's fast, a 360Hz touch rate. I think it offers everything that most people would want. So the bezels aren't the slimmest, but still the performance, the brightness, it's all there. UI runs really quick, 120 frames per second. It's very, very smooth, it's fast, it's fluid. Launch times for applications are great. The storage is fast, there's no bottleneck there at all. The Snapdragon 778G is not a bad chip at all. It's an excellent mid-range chip. You still get the 5G if you actually needed those faster download speeds. Now the interesting thing is that they've got that RAM boost option, the fact that you can, well, a lot of people used to say or joke around with that comment, didn't they, that I downloaded 2 GB more of extra RAM to my phone. You could say that almost, or 3 GB, but it's not actually that. It's not RAM. So it's a little bit of an incorrect marketing term there really, because it's a cache. It's like virtual memory on a laptop, a Windows 10 laptop. If you've got some virtual memory there that's using it, it's swapping. It's a swap file really that it's doing. But it's speeding things up, I think. It does feel so quick, the UI on this. Reminds me a little bit of Oxygen OS, with just how fluid things are, and that's great at this price point. Now the other things that are really good about this particular phone is the charge time is about 40 minutes, so very quick, 4,300 mAh battery will get you around 6 to 7 hours of on-screen time at 120 Hz. Of course, that depends on what you're doing. As they say, mileage will vary, but if you change it to 60 Hz of refresh rate, you get an additional hour or two more out of this. And of course, it charges so quick. So I think they're fine there. So what are the weaknesses then of the GT Master Edition? Well, for me, it's missing, of course, micro SD card slot would have been great on this. It's a missed opportunity. No secondary loudspeaker. A little bit disappointed with that. I mean, the single speaker is fine, but it would have been nice for a little bit more immersion in gaming and just generally sound better. And the other one is the cameras. So camera optimization, still a little bit more is needed there, I feel. Now the main camera does take an excellent still, and the night shots from the main camera, yeah, okay, but there's definitely room for improvement. The ultra wide is the weakness. 8 megapixels, video quality from the ultra wide, disappointing, not amazing. I would have preferred they ditched the 2 megapixel macro camera and just give us the main 64 megapixel camera, and then a 16 megapixel ultra wide would have been fine, or even a 13 megapixel ultra wide would have been good. Now face unlocking works fine, it's quick, and then the fingerprint reader, location as I mentioned, like right down the bottom there, I think they could really move that up, and I hope to see that in future generation phones, that they move that just up a little bit to make it a little bit more comfortable. But all up, the GT Master Edition here does get a thumbs up from me. I think it is an excellent mid-range phone, so much on offer, and as I mentioned, the performance, everything there, it pretty much ticks all boxes apart from the micro SD card, and yeah, they could have had a secondary loudspeaker. So thank you so much for watching my review here of the GT Master Edition from Realme. Do check out my review of this one here as well, which is it's basically a high-end phone from them, powered by the Snapdragon 870. It is the GT Explorer Edition.